So there's going to be a brand new head of Xbox Game Studios next month. This was just announced today that Craig Duncan, which is right now the head of Rare or Rareware, he is going to be promoted next month to the head of Xbox Game Studio. Now, if you don't know, Rare is owned by Xbox. They've been owned by them for like 20 years now at this point, I think more. So essentially, Craig Duncan has been the leader of Rare since 2010 for the past 14 years. And now he's going from the Rare boss to the Xbox boss. Pretty huge promotion. And obviously you have to think about, what all has he done at Rare. Now really, it's interesting because if you look at it, I think under his leadership, the only games they have actually worked on are the Kinect sports games. If you can even remember those, that's like a way, blast from the past for me. So there were those in the early 2010s, and then fast forward a bunch to 2018, and that is when Sea of Thieves was released, and basically the rest is kind of history. I mean, Sea of Thieves definitely has been doing fantastic for Rare. It's basically a live service game, and that's kind of what they're still, I believe, doing to this day. It's kind of their, destiny for Bungie, so to speak. It's just their kind of one end-all be-all live service game that really does do very well. Now, also, since his leadership took place at Rare, they have had like the Rare Replay collection, but that doesn't count. And then they also did have a Killer Instinct and Battletoads game, but I believe that was not developed by Rare. That was developed by a different studio. So really, under Craig Duncan, they've just had two Kinect sports games that at this point are, extremely forgettable. But then a very, very good game, Sea of Thieves. That's just a fantastic live service game. So yeah, people have kind of been torn on their reaction of this. Some people say this is kind of a bit of a lackluster list of games under his leadership. But some, I think more like myself, would say, hey, games have evolved over time. Like it or not, live service games can really be successful. And it only takes one game, if it's a live service game where you can just keep it going, that's all you need. If it's successful, it's successful. Obviously, his leadership has done great for Rare, so I'm sure that was a big deciding factor on getting him promoted to the head of Xbox Game Studios. And yeah, it's pretty interesting because, like I said, this was just announced today, and it's happening next month when the current Xbox Game Studios head, Alan Hartman, is going to retire. Now, it's worth mentioning he will have only been the head of Xbox Game Studios for 1 year. Yeah, basically, he was behind all of the Forza games for like 2 decades, since I think 2005. Actually, yes, that's right. Yep, since 2005. That's definitely a long time. I think that's basically the entire lifespan, I believe, of Forza. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, no, I am not wrong. Once again, sorry, you're kind of teleporting to a little bit in the future here when I kind of did some research. Yeah, 2005 was the first Forza game. But my point being, it's kind of odd how he did all of this at Forza, and then, November 2023, he jumps into this head of Xbox Game Studios position, only to retire after a year. I guess what I'm saying is, I hope the same doesn't happen with this guy, Craig Duncan. Both Craig Duncan and Alan Hartman are, I think, relatively about the same age. And obviously, as we can see, both kind of have relatively similar backgrounds. They've been at just one studio for over a decade and did really well, and then they got promoted. So we'll see if the same happens to Craig Duncan. But hey, overall, I'm very excited for him. I think, Rare, it sucks to say it, but I really think they're doing great with Sea of Thieves. And I should probably explain myself here before you get your pitchforks out. For all of you Sea of Thieves fans, I actually really think the game Sea of Thieves seems really cool. I have no problem with it. The reason I say that is because I love Rare for games like Banjo-Kazooie back in the day. And I can't lie, it still makes me upset that they're not doing absolutely anything with the Banjo IP. I mean, geez, Nintendo has done more with Xbox's Banjo IP in the last 5 years, just with Super Smash Bros. And bringing the game, I think, to like Nintendo Switch Online. So, I don't know, maybe the big Banjo fan in me is saying, hey, with Craig Duncan getting promoted now to the head of Xbox Game Studios, maybe there will be now more of an emphasis on finding some sort of a studio, if they haven't already, to make the next Banjo game. For years now, it's been very heavily speculated that the next Banjo game is not going to be made by Rare, as Rare is just a totally different studio now than they were 20, 30 years ago, for better or for worse. So my hopeful, positive outlook of this whole thing is that maybe there will be more of an effort now to get Banjo and maybe Conquer, some of these old Rare IPs back in the spotlight, back on Microsoft's radar. We'll have to wait and see. But as far as Craig Duncan goes, I think Sea of Thieves being on his track record is, well, I gotta say, I think that makes him have a good track record. Hopefully he'll continue to do well as the boss of Xbox Game Studios starting next month.